Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this one, as it's a nice sunny day and it's feeling spring-like, even though it isn't quite yet spring. Isn't quite yet spring? Yeah, that's right, isn't quite yet spring. I wanted to go through just a few things that you probably need to do if your caravan's been, or motorhome has been in storage over the winter period and you haven't used it. Just things to check and just a few reminders. So firstly, it's important to check your tyres. If you've just left them, if you just left your caravan in storage, it would have been sitting on the same part of the tyre the whole winter, so they may have deflated. So check the pressures of the tyre. It's a straightforward, easy thing to do. If you're on the site, if you're in storage rather, in one of the other videos I've done, I've used an air compressor. I think it's called Nighthawk. I'll put a link to it somewhere down there. I might put a picture here in this little area where the blind is that you might notice. I'll put my pictures, which is why rule of thirds, I go over here a bit to leave that space. Sorry. Yeah, so I'll put it there. So if so it's cordless and you can just pump your tyres up there. So first thing to do is check your tyres. Actually, it doesn't really matter what order you do these things in, just important to do them. Also check your tyres for sign of wear, obvious signs. Another thing to remember, that caravan tyres have a kind of shelf life of 5 years, so I think even if they look like they're in pretty good condition, it does make sense to replace them every 5 years, maybe because they kind of sit maybe in the sun or sit still for long periods of time and they could degrade. Whilst you're around by the wheels and tyres, dig out your torque wrench and check the old torque settings. Again, it takes a few minutes. There's usually a sticker outside the door which tells you things like your weights, maybe your tyre pressures, but also the torque that your wheel nuts need to be. It is important, again, on caravans to check this quite regularly. Right, so inside the caravan quickly, check for damp. Now this is something I hate doing every year because you just dread the word damp. Our last caravan suffered from damp and it cost us a reasonable amount when we went to part exit. So it is important to check for damp regularly, and if you find anything, get it checked. Now, from off the top of my head, I think if it's anything up to 20% damp on a damp meter, I bought a damp meter with me, I'll show you. So these are relatively inexpensive, see there. Now if you have a look at here, you've got two prongs. Now what you basically do is go around the caravan checking your walls, your ceiling for any signs of damp. I'll just turn this on. On this particular one there are two settings, wood and brick. You're not going to see it there, but they're set to wood, which is what we do here. So basically all I'm going to do is put this against the wall. Now it's important to check around windows and doors and skylights, so any opening where water could seep in. I'm not going to do a how to on this, I'm just going to show you what I do. Right, so there it is. If I walk over to this is the door here. Now it's important to check around these bits. That's 0. 0. I hope it's 0 all the way around because I don't want to see a grown man cry. That's 0. And around the skylights, I mean, there's other people that can tell you more about this, but this is just a basic kind of thing that you need to do. Again, by the windows. So, like I say, our last caravan had damp, and where we had damp was actually round by the windows in the bathroom, which was horrible. I think it'd beep if I had any kind of damp, so I'm just trying to get some sort of reading. That's looking good, actually. There's no, well, you'd expect no signs of damp really. It is only a couple of years old, but I've heard people with damp with newer vans than that. So that's a really quick idiot's guide of checking damp, or rather how an idiot would check damp. But seriously, I've used this before, this particular thing, and it does work because I've had damp in previous caravan and I was getting like 30%, 35%, which it was a horrible feeling, to be honest. You just turn it off. You just straight away you're thinking pound signs and it's going to cost you a fortune. I don't think caravans are as bad for damp as a lot of people seem to make out, but it makes sense to check. So check for damp. Another thing to do is check your smoke alarm and your carbon monoxide alarms. on most smoke alarms there's a test button that you can press and the alarm will go off. Check your fire extinguisher. You should have a fire extinguisher and maybe a fire blanket. Now I noticed the other day on Twitter someone had a fire stick. It's like a stick thing, and it was kind of I'll put a picture of it up there. It looked like a good idea because fire extinguisher, metal fire extinguisher, are rather cumbersome, heavy things, and I never know where to put them. Well, we have ours under the seat here, and we should really hang it on the wall somewhere convenient, but they don't look very nice. So anyway, check your fire extinguisher, make sure it's in date, and some of them, our one has a gauge. Always have a walk around the outside just to check for any visible signs of damage or cracks or seals. I noticed on the Unicorn that we've got, towards the back on the roof, there's a seal across. Why they can't just make it one continual piece, I don't know, but there's a seal right near the back. I always, when I'm washing the caravan, I get up on the roof, I always check that because there's kind of bits of mastic around there. Just make sure it's sealed. And also at the back of the caravan there's a seal that goes all the way across. It's probably the only bit that, well, it's the main bit that gets mould on, all the way at the back. Just check all that and make sure water's not running, can run down. So check your battery connections. Now we leave our battery on all year round. It's on the drive, so we leave it connected to the mains actually, and the battery stays charged, and we have a solar panel as well. But check the connections, make sure they're not furred up at all, and if they are, take the connections off and give them a good clean with a wire brush or something similar. Check your handbrake. I think the recommended advice is to leave the handbrake off during the winter, because it can kind of rust on. I leave mine on. I'm on a bit of a slope, so although I've got the stays down, I've chocked the wheels, I'd like to leave the handbrake on. I've never personally had a problem with it, but just make sure the handbrake's in working order. Something else you might want to do in spring is to flush your water system out. I think people tend to use something called PuraClean. I'll put a picture up here. Now this can be added to your aqua roll with the recommended dose. Put your water in and draw the water through your system so that it's going through your taps and sink, and then back out through the waste, which will clean those pipes as well. After a short while, you can turn the pump off and leave the water sitting. I don't know any of the recommendations. I've not personally done it myself, but there are plenty of videos explaining how to do it. So the idea is you leave it in the system for a while, kill all the bacteria and germs, and then flush it through again. Then when you've done that, maybe 2 or 3 40 litres, run it through your system, make sure all the PuraClean is flushed out so that you've got clean running water again. Again, it's probably something worth doing yearly. Like I say, I've never done it. I've always meant to, but never really got around to it. Anyway, it's a personal thing, but it might be a good thing for you to do. It's a good time for us to get a caravan service just in spring. We've got ours booked in next month, which is the beginning of March. We have a mobile engineer who comes. I think it's approved workshop scheme, AWS, something like that. If you Google approved workshop schemes, they are approved engineers who they have either places or mobile. So, but we've checked, and it is perfectly okay for you to use a mobile engineer if he's AWS certified to do a caravan service and keep you within the warranty. At least that's true of Bailey. You might want to check with your particular supplier. Like I say, get it serviced yearly. It gives you peace of mind that your gas, your water, everything, your electric is all safe and sound, and your chassis and everything. So it's quite a thorough check, and they also do a damp check as well, and they give you a report at the end. It costs a couple of £100, but we do it every year. One, to keep the warranty valid, but secondly for peace of mind. And if you get a good one, my recommendation is to stick with them, because there are some not so good ones. And lastly, a good old spring clean. Really wipe all the sides down, hoover throughout, clean. Just, it's nice we go from front to back or back to front or whatever, and just clean everything, all the cupboards, all the cupboard doors, because I can see here I've got fingerprints and stuff on. All the remnants from having a year of enjoyment out of the caravan. Give it a good old clean inside and out. Go on, treat your caravan to a clean outside as well. I'll probably wait for the weather to improve a bit, because it's a bit chilly, even though it is quite sunny today. So I think that's pretty much all I have on my list of things that I do. Things like checking the gas and stuff, I really leave that for the engineer to check during the service. You could check that all the your connections are tight and stuff like that, which maybe you want to do that. Something I have done in the past as well, a quick note, is use WD-40 on the hinges, because I have a few squeaky hinges on the cupboards, and just little spray, that's done, and it's it lasts for a while. See, I'm thinking of stuff that I'll do. Outside cupboards, the rubber seals, it says use like a silicone spray on, which I do as well. I've got a silicone spray. I give it a quick spray around the black rubber. I suppose you could do your windows as well, just to keep them kind of in good working order. On our caravan, actually, when you open the outside cupboards, there's a big sticker on there to tell you to do it quite regularly, so it must be a common issue. So I think that's about it. No doubt I've missed stuff. If I have missed stuff and there's stuff that you do that I don't do, as usual, comments below. Let me know what you do, what specific things you do to your caravan before you start to use it for the new season, which is soon upon us. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.